Jake was still staring at the now peaceful machine when Lyra's ship began to chime softly. The sound was musical and pleasant, but Lyra's expression changed to one of surprise. "What's that sound?" Jake asked. "Incoming communications," Lyra said, moving to a panel that had appeared in the wall. "Many incoming communications. This is very unusual." The panel lit up with symbols and lights that meant nothing to Jake, but Lyra's silver eyes grew wide as she read them. "What's wrong?" Jake asked, feeling worried. "Nothing is wrong," Lyra said, but her voice sounded amazed. "It appears that word of your success with the challenges has already spread through the galactic network. We are receiving contact requests from dozens of different species. How is that possible? We just finished the challenges. The trials were monitored by the Galactic Council," Lyra explained. "It is standard procedure for first contact situations, but I did not expect this level of interest." Jake felt his stomach drop. "People were watching us?" "Not people exactly," Lyra said gently. "Representatives from various species who were interested in human-alien relations. They wanted to see if humans were truly ready for galactic contact. And what did they think?" Before Lyra could answer, the air in front of them shimmered and a new figure appeared. This one looked like a walking tree with bark-like skin and leaves instead of hair. Its voice sounded like wind through branches. "Greetings, human Jake Morrison," the tree being said. "I am Ambassador Oakenheart of the Verdani Collective. Your performance in the trials has been most impressive." Jake's mouth fell open. Another alien, and this one was talking to him like he was important. "Your ability to understand the ship's biomechanical consciousness shows remarkable intuition." The ambassador continued. "The Verdani will be honored to establish cultural exchange with your species." The tree being faded away, and immediately another figure appeared. This one looked like it was made of living light, constantly shifting between different colors. "Human Jake Morrison," the light being said in a voice like singing crystals. "I am radiance of the dawn from the Luminari Empire. Your emotional connection to artificial consciousness demonstrates qualities we have long sought in potential allies." Jake looked at Lyra in panic. "What's happening?" "You are happening," Lyra said, and she sounded proud. "You are showing the galaxy what humans can do." The light being faded, and a third alien appeared. This one was made of what looked like polished metal, with glowing blue circuits running across its surface. "Jake Morrison of Earth," the metal being said in a voice like a computer, trying to sound friendly. "I am Unit Prime of the Mechanoid Confederation. Your solution to the biomechanical crisis was elegant and unexpected. We wish to study human problem-solving methods." Jake sat down heavily on one of the glowing surfaces. "This is insane. Why are they all interested in me? I'm nobody special." "You solved a problem that our best minds could not solve," Lyra said. "You did it not with advanced technology or superior intelligence, but with empathy and understanding. This is exactly what the galaxy needs." More aliens appeared one after another. There was a being that looked like a giant butterfly with 6 wings, another that seemed to be made of living water, and one that appeared to be a floating brain in a jar. Each one praised Jake's performance and offered various forms of alliance or partnership. Jake felt overwhelmed. "I can't deal with all this. I don't know anything about galactic politics or alien cultures. I'm just a programmer from Portland." "That is exactly why you are perfect for this," Lyra said. "You approach problems with fresh eyes. You do not carry the burden of thousands of years of rigid thinking." A new voice spoke, but this time it came from everywhere at once, like the ship itself was talking. "Jake Morrison of Earth," the voice said. It sounded old and wise and somehow familiar. "I am the collective mind of the Eternal Archive. We have watched your species for many cycles, waiting for the right moment to make contact." "Who are you?" Jake asked. "We are the keepers of all knowledge in the galaxy," the voice replied. "We preserve the history and wisdom of every species, but knowledge without growth become stagnant. Your species brings something new. You bring change. Jake felt like his brain was going to explode. What do you want from humans? We want you to be teachers, the voice said. To show other species how to feel again, how to grow again, how to hope again. But we're not advanced like you are, Jake protested. We still have wars and poverty and disease. We can't even take care of our own planet properly. These struggles are not weaknesses, the voice replied. They are the source of your strength. Because you still face challenges, you still grow. Because you still suffer, you still feel compassion. Because you still hope for better things, you still work to create them. Lyra moved closer to Jake. The galaxy has become too comfortable. Most species have solved their basic problems, but in doing so, they have stopped evolving. They have stopped dreaming. They have stopped trying to become better than they are. Humans have not stopped, the collective mind continued. Every day, humans face impossible odds and find ways to overcome them. Every day, humans choose love over fear, hope over despair, growth over stagnation. Jake thought about his own life, the struggles he had faced, the rejections, the loneliness. But I fail all the time. We all fail all the time. Failure is not the end of growth, the voice said. It is the beginning. When you fail, you learn. When you learn, you become stronger. When you become stronger, you try again. This cycle of growth is what makes humans unique. More aliens began appearing in rapid succession. Jake lost count of how many different species were represented. Some he could barely comprehend, beings made of gas, creatures that existed in multiple dimensions at once, entities that seemed to be pure thought. Each one had the same message. They wanted to work with humans. They wanted to learn from humans. They wanted humans to join the galactic community. This is too much, Jake said, feeling dizzy. I can't represent all of humanity. I can't make decisions for my entire species. You are not being asked to, Lyra said gently. You are being asked to be the first. To show that cooperation between humans and aliens is possible. But what if I mess it up? Jake asked. What if I say something wrong or offend someone or start an intergalactic war? Then you will learn from your mistakes and do better next time, Lyra said. This is what humans do. This is what makes you so valuable. The collective mind spoke. Again, Jake Morrison, you have already succeeded beyond our highest expectations. In one night, you have shown the galaxy that humans are ready for contact. You have proven that your species can work with ours. I have a question, Jake said. Why now? Why is everyone suddenly interested in humans? Because the galaxy is stagnating, the voice replied. For millions of years, the same species have dominated galactic politics. The same solutions have been applied to the same problems. The same patterns have repeated endlessly. We need new ideas, Lyra added. New perspectives. New ways of thinking and feeling and being. Humans bring chaos, the collective mind said, and somehow Jake could hear a smile in the ancient voice. Not destructive chaos, but creative chaos. The chaos of growth and change and possibility. Jake stood up and walked to the edge of the holographic room. Through the transparent walls, he could see space filled with ships. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, all hovering around Lyra's small craft. Are those all here for me? He asked. They are here for what you represent, Lyra said. Hope for the future, a chance for the galaxy to grow again. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. What happens now? Now you must make a choice, the collective mind said. You can return to Earth and pretend this never happened. Live your quiet life and let the galaxy continue as it always has. Or, Jake asked, or you can become Earth's first ambassador to the galaxy, Lyra said. You can help your species take its place among the stars. Jake looked out at all the ships, all the aliens who had come to meet him. A few hours ago he had been a lonely programmer shouting at the sky. Now he was being offered the chance to change the course of human history. "If I say yes," Jake said slowly, "what would that mean exactly?" "It would mean setting up formal diplomatic relations between Earth and the galactic community," Lyra explained. "It would mean helping your species prepare for the changes that are coming." "What changes?" "Contact with the galaxy will change everything," the collective mind said. "Your technology, your society, your understanding of your place in the universe. These changes will be difficult but necessary." Jake thought about his empty apartment, his boring job, his lonely life. Then he thought about the wonders he had seen, the possibility of helping his entire species reach for the stars. "I need to know something," Jake said. "If I do this, if I become an ambassador, what happens to us?" He looked at Lyra. "What happens?" "To our courtship?" Lyra smiled, and her silver eyes sparkled. "That continues too. In fact, it becomes even more important. A human-Zephyrian partnership will be a powerful symbol of cooperation between our peoples. So I wouldn't have to choose between saving humanity and being with you." "You will be doing both," Lyra said. "Together." Jake took a deep breath. The scared, lonely man who had shouted at but maybe that was exactly TH. Jake's heart was beating so fast he thought it might explode. He had just agreed to let an alien woman court him. A beautiful, 7-foot-tall alien woman who thought humans were special. This was definitely not how he had expected his night to go. "What happens now?" Jake asked. Lyra's silver eyes lit up with joy. "Now we begin the traditional Zephyrian courtship process. It involves a series of challenges designed to test our compatibility." "Challenges?" Jake felt his stomach drop. "What kind of challenges?" "Do not worry," Lyra said gently. "They are not dangerous. They are meant to show how well we work together and understand each other." The holographic room around them shifted. Again, now they were standing in what looked like a garden, but the plants were unlike anything Jake had ever seen. Some glowed with soft light, others seemed to be made of crystal, and a few moved slowly like they were dancing. "This is beautiful," Jake said, reaching out to touch a flower that sparkled like a diamond. "This is the Garden of Harmony," Lyra explained. "It is where Zephyrian couples come to take their first challenge. The garden responds to emotions. If two people are truly compatible, the garden will bloom. If they are not, it will wither." Jake pulled his hand back. "What if I make it wither? What if I'm not good enough?" "Jake Morrison," Lyra said, stepping closer to him. "You have already made the garden bloom just by being here. Look around you." Jake looked and realized she was right. The plants around them were glowing brighter. The crystal flowers were chiming softly, and the dancing plants were moving in perfect rhythm. It was like the whole garden was singing. "How is this possible?" Jake asked. "Your emotions are pure and strong," Lyra said. "The garden can sense that. It responds to honesty and openness. These are things you have in abundance." Jake felt a warm feeling in his chest. For the first time in his life, someone was telling him that his feelings were a strength, not a weakness. "What's the next challenge?" he asked. Lyra smiled and waved her hand. The garden faded away, and they were now standing in what looked like a vast library. But instead of books, the shelves were filled with glowing orbs of different colors. "This is the Chamber of Understanding," Lyra said. "Each orb contains a memory or experience from my life. You must choose 3 orbs and experience what I experience. Then I will do the same with your memories." Jake looked at the thousands of orbs. "How do I know which ones to choose?" "Trust your instincts," Lyra said. "Choose the ones that call to you." Jake walked slowly through the library. Some orbs pulsed with warm light, others flickered like stars, and a few seemed to glow with an inner fire. He found himself drawn to 3 particular orbs. One was silver like Lyra's hair, one was blue like her skin, and one was golden like sunlight. "These ones," Jake said, pointing to the 3 orbs. Lyra nodded. "Those are interesting choices." The silver orb contains my memory of the day I first saw the stars. The blue orb contains my memory of the day I learned I was different from others of my kind. The golden orb contains my memory of the day I first felt hope. She touched the silver orb, and suddenly Jake was inside the memory. He was very young, maybe the equivalent of a human child, standing on a balcony with an older Zephyrian who looked like Lyra but with darker skin. The older woman was pointing at the sky. "See how the stars shine, little one?" The woman said, "Each one is a sun with worlds around it. Someday you will visit those worlds and learn their secrets." Jake felt the wonder and excitement that young Lyra had felt. The vast universe seemed full of possibilities and adventures waiting to be discovered. The memory faded, and Jake found himself back in the library. "That was your mother," he said. "Yes," Lyra said, looking surprised. "How did you know?" "The way she looked at you," Jake said. "The way she wanted to share something beautiful with you." "My mother used to look at me the same way." Lyra touched the blue orb next. This memory was darker. Jake saw teenage Lyra standing in a room full of other young Zephyrians. They were all perfectly behaved, perfectly controlled, perfectly emotionless. But Lyra was crying. "What is wrong with you?" One of the other teenagers asked, "Why do you feel so much?" "I don't know," young Lyra replied. "I can't help it. Everything seems so important, so meaningful. Don't you feel it too?" The other teenagers looked at her like she was sick. Jake felt the loneliness and confusion that Lyra had felt, the sense of being different and not understanding why. "You felt things more deeply than others," Jake said when the memory ended, "just like humans do." "Yes," Lyra said. "My people thought there was something wrong with me. That is why I was chosen to study humans. They thought someone who felt too much would be good at understanding a species that feels everything." Jake reached for the golden orb. This memory was recent. He saw Lyra standing in front of a council of important-looking Zephyrians. They were discussing the human species. "They are too primitive," one council member said. "Too emotional, too chaotic. They will never be ready for galactic society." "You are wrong," Lyra said firmly. "Their emotions are not a weakness. They are a strength. They allow humans to grow and change and overcome impossible challenges. They are exactly what our galaxy needs." "You speak of things you do not understand," another council member said. "Emotions lead to chaos. Logic leads to order. Order without growth is death," Lyra replied. "These humans have something we have lost. They have hope. They have dreams. They have the ability to love something more than themselves." Jake felt the passion and conviction in Lyra's voice. She had been fighting for humanity before she had even met him. She believed in his species when her own people did not. "You stood up for us," Jake said, "even when your own people disagreed." "I believed in you," Lyra said. "I still do." Now it was Lyra's turn to experience Jake's memories. She walked through the library until she found 3 orbs that glowed with a different kind of light. One was warm brown, one was soft green, and one was bright white. She touched the brown orb first. Suddenly she was 8-year-old Jake, sitting in a hospital room with his mother. His mother was very sick, and Jake was trying to be brave. "Are you going to be okay, Mom?" young Jake asked. "I might not be, sweetheart," his mother said gently. "But I need you to promise me something. Promise me you'll never stop hoping for good things. Promise me you'll never stop believing in love." "I promise," young Jake said. Even though he was scared, Lyra felt the love between mother and son and the terrible sadness of loss, but she also felt something else. She felt young Jake's determination to keep his promise, even when it would be hard. The green orb showed teenage Jake being bullied at school. Bigger boys were pushing him around and calling him names. But instead of fighting back with anger, Jake was trying to understand why they were hurting him. They must be hurting inside, teenage Jake said to his friend later. People don't hurt others unless they're hurting themselves. Lyra felt Jake's compassion, his ability to see good in people even when they were cruel to him. This was not weakness. This was incredible strength. The white orb showed Jake just a few hours ago, shouting at the stars. But now Lyra experienced it from Jake's perspective. She felt his loneliness, his frustration, his desperate desire to be loved. But she also felt his courage. Even in his darkest moment, he had not given up hope. "You have suffered," Lyra said when the memory ended, "but you have not let suffering make you bitter. You have let it make you kind." "I tried," Jake said. "My mom always said that pain either breaks you or makes you stronger. I tried to let it make me stronger." "You succeeded," Lyra said. "These memories show me that you are exactly the kind of person I hoped you would be. Compassionate, brave, and full of hope." Jake felt tears in his eyes. "What's the third challenge?" Lyra smiled. "The third challenge is the most important. We must solve a problem together. Something that neither of us could solve alone." The library faded away, and they were now standing in what looked like a vast mechanical room. In the center was a huge machine covered in lights and symbols. It was making a low humming sound, but some of the lights were flickering. "This is the heart of my ship," Lyra said. "It has been damaged by cosmic radiation. My people have been trying to repair it for weeks, but we cannot figure out how to fix it." Jake looked at the machine. It was incredibly complex, with technology far beyond anything on Earth. "How am I supposed to help with this? I don't understand your technology." "You do not need to understand the technology," Lyra said. "You need to understand the problem. Sometimes the solution is not about knowing more. Sometimes it is about seeing things differently." Jake walked around the machine, studying it. The flickering lights seemed to follow a pattern, but it was a pattern that kept changing. He watched for several minutes, trying to understand what he was seeing. "It's not broken," Jake said suddenly. "It's scared?" "Scared?" Lyra looked confused. "It is a machine. Machines do not feel fear. This one does," Jake said. "Look at the pattern of the lights. It's like a heartbeat when someone is afraid. The machine is alive, isn't it?" Lyra's eyes widened. "Yes, it is biomechanical. It has a form of consciousness. But how did you know?" "Because I know what it feels like to be scared and alone," Jake said. "The machine has been damaged, and it's afraid it's going to die. That's why it's not working properly. It's okay." Jake stared at Lyra, his mouth hanging open. Court him? This beautiful alien woman wanted to court him? The same Jake Morrison who couldn't even get a date with someone from his own species. What does that mean exactly?" Jake asked. "Courting. According to your customs?" Lyra's silver eyes sparkled with what looked like amusement. "It means I would like to spend time with you, to learn about your culture and to share mine with you, to see if we are compatible as partners." Jake felt dizzy. "Partners? Like ... dating?" "More than dating," Lyra said. "In Zephyrian culture, courtship is a serious matter. We only court those we believe could be life mates. I would not ask this lightly." Jake sat down on one of the glowing surfaces, which turned out to be surprisingly comfortable. "This is crazy. You don't even know me. We just met 5 minutes ago." "I have been watching you for months," Lyra said gently. "I know more about you than you might think. I know you stop to help stray cats find food. I know you give money to homeless people, even when you don't have much to spare. I know you cry during sad movies and laugh at jokes that aren't even funny. I know you dream of traveling to other worlds." Jake's cheeks turned red. "You've been spying on me?" "Observing," Lyra corrected. "It is my job to study human behavior, but with you, it became more than work. Your emotional honesty fascinated me. Most humans hide their true feelings. You wear yours openly, and that's a good thing." "It is a wonderful thing," Lyra said. She waved her hand, and the holographic room changed. Now they were standing in what looked like a vast library, But instead of books, the shells held glowing crystals. "Let me show you something." She touched one of the crystals, and images filled the air around them. Jake saw creatures that looked like walking trees, beings made of pure light, and others that looked like they were made of living metal. "These are some of the species in our galaxy," Lyra explained. "Each one has achieved great things. The Vadani can grow entire cities from seeds. The Luminari can travel at the speed of light. The mechanoids can build machines that think and feel." Jake watched in amazement as the images shifted and changed. "They're incredible." "Yes," Lyra agreed. "But they have all lost something important. They have become so advanced that they no longer struggle. They no longer grow. They no longer surprise themselves." The images changed again, showing what looked like perfect cities under glass domes. Everything was clean and organized and beautiful, but somehow lifeless. "This is my homeworld," Lyra said. "Zephyria. We have solved all of our basic problems. No one goes hungry. No one gets sick. No one dies before their time. We live for thousands of years." "That sounds amazing," Jake said. "It sounds amazing," Lyra agreed, "but it is also very boring. We have nothing to struggle for, nothing to dream about, nothing to hope for that we cannot simply create with our technology." Jake looked around at the perfect city. "But you're happy, right?" "We are content," Lyra said. "But contentment is not the same as happiness. We have forgotten what it feels like to be truly excited about something. We have forgotten what it feels like to love so much that it hurts." She touched another crystal, and the images changed to show Earth. Jake saw cities and forests and oceans, but also wars and poverty and pollution. "Your world is messy," Lyra said. "Your species fights and struggles and makes mistakes. You hurt each other, and you hurt yourselves. You have problems that seem impossible to solve." Jake felt defensive. "We're not that bad." "You are not bad at all," Lyra said quickly. "You are magnificent. You feel everything so deeply. You care so much about things that you are willing to suffer for them. You love with your whole hearts, even when that love is not returned." The images focused on individual humans now. Jake saw a woman crying as she held a baby, a man laughing with his children, an old couple holding hands as they walked through a park. "You still experienced the full range of emotions," Lyra continued. "Joy and sorrow, hope and despair, love and loss. These feelings make you creative. They make you grow. They make you surprise yourselves with what you can accomplish." Jake began to understand. "So you're saying that our problems are actually good things?" "I am saying that your ability to feel deeply and overcome difficulties is what makes humans special in the galaxy. Most species would trade their advanced technology for the chance to feel what you feel every day." Lyra waved her hand again, and now they were looking at what seemed like a vast marketplace. Creatures from dozens of different worlds were trading goods and services. "This is the Galactic Trade Center," Lyra explained. "Species from across the galaxy come here to exchange what they have for what they need. The Verdani trade food, the Luminari trade energy, the mechanoids trade technology." "What do humans trade?" Jake asked. "You are not part of the galactic community yet," Lyra said. "But when you are ready, humans will be the most valuable traders of all." "Why?" "Because humans trade in the one thing that cannot be manufactured or grown or built," Lyra said. "You trade in inspiration, in new ideas, in solutions to problems that seem impossible." She touched another crystal, and Jake saw images of humans doing amazing things. Athletes pushing their bodies to impossible limits, artists creating beautiful works from nothing, scientists discovering new truths about the universe. "Humans never give up," Lyra said. "When faced with a problem, you do not simply accept that it cannot be solved. You find a way, you adapt, you overcome. This is why every species in the galaxy wants to work with humans." Jake felt overwhelmed. "But I'm just a programmer. I write code for a living. I'm not special. You are more special than you know, Lyra said. Do you remember the last program you wrote at work? Jake nodded. It was a system to help organize patient records at a hospital. That program will help save lives, Lyra said. You took a complex problem and found a simple solution. This is exactly the kind of thinking that makes humans valuable. She showed him more images. Jake saw humans working alongside aliens, solving problems together, creating new technologies and art and ideas. But why me? Jake asked. Why not someone famous or smart or important? Because you are exactly the kind of human the galaxy needs, Lyra said. You are kind without expecting anything in return. You are honest about your feelings. You do not give up when things get difficult. You see the good in people even when they do not see it in themselves. Jake felt tears in his eyes again. I've never thought of myself that way. That is another thing that makes humans special, Lyra said softly. You do not realize how amazing you are. You think your struggles make you weak, but they make you strong. You think your emotions make you foolish, but they make you wise. She moved closer to him. On my world, we have a legend about a species that could feel with their whole hearts and love without limits. We thought it was just a story. But then, we found Earth, and we realized the legend was about humans. What does the legend say? It says that this species will be the ones to bring all the scattered peoples of the galaxy together. Not through force or technology, but through understanding. Through the ability to see what others need and to help them find it. Jake looked around at the holographic images of the galaxy. It was beautiful and vast and full of wonders he had never imagined. And you think I could be part of that? I think you already are, Lyra said. The moment you shouted your pain to the stars. You showed the universe what it means to be human. You showed us what we have been missing. Jake stood up and walked to the edge of the holographic room. Through the transparent walls, he could see Earth floating in the darkness of space. It looked so small and fragile and precious. What would happen if I said yes? He asked. If I agreed to let you court me? Then you would be the first human to formally enter into a relationship with a member of the galactic community, Lyra said. You would be making history. Jake turned to look at her. She was beautiful and strange and completely impossible. But she was also real, and she was offering him something he had never dared to dream of. And if I said no? Then I would respect your choice, Lyra said. But I would also be very sad. And I think you would always wonder what might have been. Jake thought about his empty apartment, his boring job, his lonely life. Then he thought about the wonders he had seen, the possibility of being part of something bigger than himself. What exactly would courting involve? He asked. Lyra smiled. Learning about each other, sharing our worlds, discovering if we can build something beautiful together. Jake took a deep breath. Okay, he said. Let's try it. Jake sat on the bench for what felt like hours, but was probably only 10 minutes. The cool night air helped clear his head a little. He was starting to feel embarrassed about his outburst. Good thing nobody had been around to see him yelling at the sky like a crazy person. He stood up and stretched, ready to go home and pretend this whole night never happened. Tomorrow he would delete Katie's number from his phone and maybe look into online dating again. Or maybe he would get a cat. At least cats were honest about only wanting you for food. That's when he saw the light dot at first. Jake thought it was just a plane. There was a bright spot in the sky that seemed to be getting bigger. But as he watched, the light grew brighter and brighter until it was almost too bright to look at directly. It was coming down toward the park, moving in a way that no plane could move. Jake blinked hard, wondering if he was having some kind of breakdown. Maybe all the stress from the reunion had finally made him snap. The light was definitely getting closer, and it wasn't making any sound at all. The bright light suddenly stopped about 20 feet above the ground, right in front of Jake. He stood frozen. not sure if he should run or hide behind the tree. The light began to fade, and Jake could see that it wasn't a light at all, but some kind of craft. It was silver and smooth, about the size of a small bus, and it floated in the air like it weighed nothing. Jake's mouth fell open. This was definitely not a plane. A beam of soft blue light shot down from the craft and touched the ground. In the beam, something began to appear. It started as just a shimmer, like heat waves rising from summer pavement. But slowly, the shimmer became solid, and Jake found himself looking at the most beautiful and terrifying thing he had ever seen. She was tall, maybe 7 feet, with skin that looked like it was made of blue pearl. It seemed to glow softly in the moonlight. Her hair was silver and moved like it was underwater, even though there was no wind. Her eyes were large and silver too, and when she looked at Jake, he felt like she could see right through him. She was wearing something that looked like a dress, but it seemed to be made of the same material as her ship. It changed color slightly as she moved, shifting from silver to blue to purple. She was definitely not human. Jake tried to speak, but no words came out. His brain couldn't process what he was seeing. Aliens weren't real. They were just in movies and books. They didn't land in parks in Portland, and definitely didn't look like beautiful blue women. The alien woman smiled at him. Her teeth were perfectly white and straight. When she spoke, her voice was like music. "Hello, Jake Morrison," she said. Jake's legs nearly gave out. She knew his name. This was either a dream, a hallucination, or the most important moment in human history. Maybe all three. How do you Jake stammered. "I have been watching you," she said. Her voice had a slight accent, but Jake couldn't place it. "I heard your call to the stars. You asked why no one wants to wed you. I am here to answer that question." Jake looked around the empty park, half expecting to see cameras or someone playing a prank on him, but there was nothing. Just him, this impossible blue woman and her floating ship. "You're an alien," Jake said. "It wasn't a question." "Yes," she replied. "My name is Lyra. I am from the Zephyrian Empire. We have been observing your species for many years." "Observing us," Jake repeated. "Like watching us?" "Yes. We study different cultures throughout the galaxy. Earth is very interesting to us. Humans are unique." Jake felt like he was in a dream. This couldn't be real. But the cool night air felt real, and the alien woman looked solid and real. And his heart was beating so fast, it felt like it might explode. "Why are you here?" Jake asked. "Why are you talking to me?" Lyra stepped closer. Jake could smell something like flowers and ozone coming from her. It wasn't unpleasant, just different. "In my culture, when someone makes a public declaration of their desire to find a mate, it is an invitation for courtship. You called out to the universe, asking why no one wants to wed you. I am here to tell you that you are wrong." Jake's brain struggled to keep up. Wrong about what? "Many beings in the galaxy would want to wed you, Jake Morrison. Humans are very desirable partners. You just don't know it yet." This was definitely a dream. Or maybe he had hit his head when he kicked that rock. There was no way an alien woman was telling him that humans were popular in space. "I don't understand," Jake said. Lyra smiled again. "May I show you something?" Before Jake could answer, she touched a small device on her wrist. The air around them shimmered, and suddenly they weren't in the park anymore. They were standing in what looked like a large room with walls made of light. Through the walls, Jake could see stars and planets, and things that looked like cities floating in space. "We are on my ship," Lyra explained. "This is a holographic environment. It allows us to talk comfortably." Jake turned in a slow circle, trying to take it all in. The room was beautiful and strange. There were no chairs or tables, just smooth surfaces that seemed to glow with their own light. In the center of the room was a large screen showing what looked like Earth from space. "This is impossible," Jake whispered. "Nothing is impossible," Lyra said. Your species just hasn't learned that yet, but you will. Humans are very good at learning. She waved her hand, and the screen changed. Now it showed images of different creatures from different worlds. Some looked almost human, others were completely alien, but they all seemed to be watching something with great interest. These are some of the many species in our galaxy, Lyra explained. They are all watching Earth, waiting. Waiting for what? For humans to be ready to join the galactic community, and for the right human to make first contact. Jake stared at the screen. You think I'm the right human? I think you might be. Your emotional honesty is very rare in the galaxy. Most species have learned to hide their true feelings. But you shouted your pain and your desire to the stars without fear. That kind of authenticity is very attractive. Jake felt like he was drowning in information. I don't understand any of this. Why would aliens care about humans? We're not special. We can't even get along with each other. Lyra's silver eyes sparkled. That is exactly why you are special. You feel deeply. You struggle with difficult emotions. You never give up, even when things seem hopeless. These are not weaknesses, Jake. In the galaxy, these are superpowers. Superpowers? Yes, most advanced species have solved their basic problems. We have unlimited energy, perfect health, long lives. But we have also lost something important. We have lost passion. We have lost the ability to feel deep joy or deep sorrow. We have lost the ability to grow. Lyra moved closer to Jake. Humans still have these things. You still feel everything with your heart. You still fight for what you believe in. You still love with everything you have, even when it hurts. Jake felt tears forming in his eyes again. But I'm alone. I'm always alone. You are not alone, Lyra said softly. You have never been alone. We have been watching you, Jake Morrison. We have seen your kindness to strangers. We have seen you help people who could not help you back. We have seen you cry at movies and laugh at simple jokes. We have seen you hope for things you thought you could never have. She reached out and touched his hand. Her skin felt warm and smooth, like polished stone heated by the sun. In my culture, we have a saying, she continued. The heart that breaks open can hold the whole universe. Your heart has been broken many times, Jake. But you keep letting it heal. You keep hoping. You keep loving. This makes you incredibly valuable. Jake looked down at her hand on his. It was real. She was real. This was all really happening. What do you want from me? He asked. Lyra smiled. I want to show you who you really are. I want to show you how the galaxy sees humans. And I want to ask you a question. What question? Jake Morrison of Earth, she said, her voice becoming formal. Would you consider allowing me to court you according to the customs of my people? Jake Morrison sat in his old Honda Civic outside the fancy hotel where his 10-year college reunion was happening. His hand shook as he held the steering wheel. Tonight had been a disaster. He had finally worked up the courage to tell Katie Williams how he felt about her, and she had laughed. Not a good laugh, but the kind of laugh that meant she thought he was crazy for even trying. Jake, you're sweet, but I'm engaged to Brad, she had said with a pitying smile. He's a doctor. Now, we're getting married next spring. Of course she was marrying Brad. Brad with his perfect teeth and his medical degree. Brad who had been captain of the football team and never had to worry about talking to girls. Jake looked at himself in the rearview mirror. His brown hair was messy, his shirt had a small stain from the dinner, and his glasses were slightly crooked. He was 28 years old and still single, still working the same programming job he had started right after college. The reunion had been full of success stories. Everyone seemed to be married or engaged or at least dating someone. Amazing. They talked about their houses and their kids and their promotions. Jake had stood in the corner, drinking punch and pretending to check his phone every few minutes so he wouldn't look completely alone. He started the car and drove toward his small apartment. The city lights blurred past his windows. Portland. looked different at night, quieter and more lonely. He had grown up here, gone to college here, and now worked here. Sometimes he wondered if he would die here too, alone and forgotten. But instead of going home, Jake found himself pulling into Laurelhurst Park. He wasn't sure why. Maybe he needed some fresh air before facing his empty apartment. Maybe he needed to think. The park was mostly empty at 11 at night, just a few streetlights casting long shadows across the grass. Jake got out of his car and walked toward the big oak tree in the middle of the park. He had come here as a kid with his mom. Before she died, she used to push him on the swings and tell him stories about brave knights and distant planets. "You're special, Jake," she would say. "Someday you'll do something amazing." "Well, Mom," he thought bitterly, "someday is taking a really long time." The night air was cool against his face. Above him, the stars were barely visible through the cities. Glow. Jake looked up at the sky and felt something break inside him. All the frustration and loneliness and disappointment came rushing out at once. "This is ridiculous," he shouted at the stars. "I'm a good person. I'm kind to people. I help old ladies with their groceries. I donate to charity. I've never hurt anyone in my life." His voice echoed across the empty park. A dog barked somewhere in the distance. "I have a college degree," he continued, his voice getting louder. "I have a job. I shower every day. I remember birthdays. I actually listen when people talk to me." Jake kicked at a small rock, sending it flying into the darkness. "So why does nobody want me?" he yelled at the sky. "Why does every girl I like choose someone else? What's wrong with me?" He felt tears starting to form in his eyes, but he didn't care. Nobody was around to see him anyway. "I'm tired of being alone," he screamed. "I'm tired of eating dinner by myself. I'm tired of going to movies alone. I'm tired of having nobody to talk to when I get home from work." The words poured out of him like water from a broken dam. He had been holding this inside for so long. "I just want someone to care about me," he shouted. "Someone who thinks I'm worth their time. Someone who doesn't look at me like I'm some kind of mistake." Jake's voice cracked on the last word. He stood there in the middle of the park, breathing heavily, feeling both embarrassed and relieved. The silence that followed was almost complete, broken only by the distant sound of traffic and the rustle of leaves in the wind. "No one wants to wed me," he finally yelled at the top of his lungs, using the old-fashioned word his grandmother had always used. "Nobody wants to marry me. I'm going to die alone, and nobody will even notice." As the echo of his words faded away, Jake felt completely drained. He sat down on a bench and put his head in his hands. Tomorrow he would go back to work and pretend everything was fine. He would smile and make small talk and act like his heart wasn't broken. But tonight, for just a few minutes, he had been honest about how he felt. High above the earth, invisible to human eyes, a sleek spacecraft hovered in the darkness of space. Its hull was smooth and silver, reflecting the light of distant stars. Inside the ship, advanced sensors had detected Jake's emotional outburst. The ship's computer systems analyzed his words, his tone, his body language, and his heart rate. In the ship's main chamber, a tall figure with blue skin and silver hair stood before a wall of glowing screens. Her name was Lyra, and she was a scout for the Zephyrian Empire. For the past 6 months, she had been studying human behavior from orbit, trying to understand Earth's strange inhabitants. Most humans, she had observed, hid their true feelings behind layers of social politeness. They said things they didn't mean and pretended to be happy when they were sad. It was very confusing to someone from her culture, where emotional honesty was considered the highest virtue. But this human, this Jake Morrison, was different. He had just poured out his heart to the universe without caring who heard him. He had been completely honest about his pain and his desires. In Zephyrian culture, such raw truthfulness was extremely attractive. Lyra's large, silver eyes studied the readings from her sensors. Jake's emotional signature was unlike anything she had recorded from other humans. There was pain, Yes, but also hope. Loneliness, but also love waiting to be given. Frustration, but also determination. She had been sent to Earth to find suitable candidates for cultural exchange with her people. The Zephyrian Empire had been watching humanity for many years, waiting for the right moment to make contact. They needed humans who could bridge the gap between their very different species. Jake Morrison might be exactly what they were looking for. Lyra touched the control panel, and the ship's computers began preparing for descent. She had studied human customs extensively, but she had never attempted direct contact before. Her superiors had warned her to be careful, to observe proper protocols, to avoid causing panic. But something about Jake's passionate declaration had touched something deep inside her. In her culture, a public declaration of desire to find a mate was considered a formal invitation for courtship. Jake had just announced to the universe that he was available, and Lyra found herself wanting to respond. She began the descent toward Earth, her heart beating with an excitement she hadn't felt in years. Tonight, Jake Morrison was about to discover that someone in the universe had been listening to his desperate plea. Someone who found his honesty beautiful and his loneliness unnecessary. The stars above. Portland grew brighter as Lyra's ship approached, though Jake, still sitting on his bench with his head in his hands, didn't notice. He was too busy trying to figure out how he would face another day of pretending to be. He had no idea that his life was about to change forever.